The only reason why we don't have a fucking recession during the pandemic is because they printed money to buy back shit. That's the only fucking reason why there are millions of unemployed people during the pandemic, but there's no recession. It's because they've been fucking printing money.
So the topic of this discussion, bro, is living in unprecedented times.
You know, 2020, this decade just hasn't been well, ever since it started.
It's been one thing from another. It's been almost World War Z to World War III.
Yeah.
I think during all these uncertain times, people need some clarity.
No, 100%. I think I can tell you the backstory, the politics behind it. I think, you know, I also want you to also look from the other side perspective. It's not black and white. It's very, very gray. I mean, life is not a Marvel movie. There's no such thing as the bad guy, right? Everyone's pretty, you know, we're human beings. And is that for 2 seconds? Is that coffee coming up? You know, life is not a Marvel movie, so meaning that there's not really a bad guy. Everyone has their own reason, and Putin has their own reason. I think it makes a lot of sense, and I think it's double standard in a way. The reason why the Cold War started was because Russia had nuclear plan, and Cuba was right in front of the doorstep of US, and that's when US pissed off, like, oh wow, like, you can't do that. It's just like, it's a double standard in a way where, I mean, US has to understand that Russia will not be okay if Ukraine joined NATO. Because it's the very reason why they were uncomfortable about Cuba for the Cold War.
It's almost hypocritical.
Correct, it's hypocritical. Absolutely. Before the invasion happened, I mean, US was taking pictures with the Prime Minister of Ukraine, Zelensky, and they were shaking hands, they were taking pictures, they were saying that we want to push you to NATO. They were open about it, and it just with no regards into how would that makes Russia feel. And then yet US kept on pushing. I think there was no agreement because after the dissolve of Soviet Union, I think Russia and NATO, US actually verbally agree that they would not move 1 inch eastward. But what actually happened was that was not the case. Yes, they were not actively acquiring members into NATO, but they had this called the open door policy, and they provoke it through media. So it forced them to pick side. Yes, they were not actively acquiring these members, but they went about a different route.
We're not unfamiliar to world wars, but a world war has never occurred during the time of the internet, during the time of social media.
Correct.
What do you think is one of the biggest affects and the biggest symptoms of war with social media?
I think this World War III will be very, very different. I mean, what you see here is an economic war already, because since World War II, all these countries got so interconnected in a way that, you see, without any missile fired, the NATO countries have basically collapsed the Russian economy. I mean, the internet is one way to spread your propaganda in a way. You know, social media is used by the government, by the banks, and by the Western culture to really spread what it's like to have a free world, to have the American dream, to have democracy, and all that, right? There's good and bad what the US is doing. Good is, I think US understand that what can freedom do to a country. I think no one can argue, even Russian people, I believe a citizen, Chinese citizen, can all agree that they would love to have freedom. They would love to have free speech. No human would ever say no to that. But I think the way that the US is doing it is not exactly the right way. We talk about centralization, decentralization, right? And the one argument for centralization has always been that centralization make decision much quicker. Because if one person decides, things get passed very quick. If you decentralize, if you need many people's approval, yes, it's democracy, but it's slow, which is the argument for cryptocurrency, for Bitcoin whatsoever. But my argument is, has centralization actually been fast? I'll give you an example. When cars came about, it took the government 10 years to make seatbelt mandatory. 10 fucking years. You know how many people died in the process? It took the government years to make car legal. They said that car is a fucking death machine. Government is always fucking slow. And we talk about centralization so centralization is so flawed in a way. I feel, you know, there are decisions that should be decentralized. Life-changing decisions, nuclear war. I think that button should be democratized. All those fucking machines, all those fucking missiles they fire Ukraine right now, we fucking paid for it.
So why don't we get a say?
Why don't we get a say in terms of where we spend it? The world moved on. Stock market improved, companies improved, technology improved. The only one thing that hasn't improved for centuries is the structure of the government. Why do we have EU when fucking EU cannot stop a fucking war? When we pay taxes, their only fucking job is to ensure world peace. And there's a war going on and there's nothing they can do about it. I always say that being a president and being a CEO is the same shit. My job as a CEO is not to make all the fucking decisions. My job as a CEO is to make sure the best idea win in the room. And for me, if it's a president, bro, your fucking job is to make sure that those people's voices are heard. I don't want to be president, but let's just say there's a young guy, similar thinking like me, want to democratize the structure, would put all decision-making process in a blockchain and allow people to vote based on the hot, and people can vote on what policies they want. But this, he can do that in a dictatorship manner first, because through dictatorship, he can do things a lot quicker, set up structure a lot quicker without asking a lot of people's opinion. And then once he did that, democratize it. Democratize his decision-making process. That's the only way to do it, in my opinion. We need a young guy that understands. I mean, why do we have 80 years old, 70 years old president and not 20, 30, 40?
You're not wrong. Modern problems require modern solutions. Which
Correct.
Is often younger, fresher
Bro,
mindset.
Biden's still using a flip phone probably. I mean, come on, man. Disclaimer, World War III already happened. The sanction that the NATO countries are implementing on Russia is detrimental. I want to take a step back and talk about what is happening in the Russian economy right now. If you're Russian right now, and you're in Russia, you wake up today, you want to get some noodles, right? I don't know if Russia serves noodles, but you go to a noodle shop, amazing noodle, and then you're about to pay. That vendor is like, ah, shit, do I want that? And you're like, I hope they take this, because you also don't want that. You know what leads to that? Is that the person serving the noodle is gonna be like, you know what? Because I don't really believe in that, let me jack up the price 10 times because I don't want that anymore. Or you can pay me US dollar, or you can pay me Bitcoin, something that's not controlled by the government. It's even better. So what that actually happens is that people don't actually fucking believe in the currency. Cash is a fucking religion. Bro, Russian ruble means nothing overnight. So how can you be certain of anything, of any cash that you're holding right now? Why the fuck are you holding cash in your bank account right the fuck now? Put cash on the fucking table. 10 years, it's still sitting on the table. It does nothing, produce nothing for you. Outside of the fact that everyone around us have faith or believe that this shit has value. If you and I don't believe this has value, it means absolutely dog shit. Why the fuck are we holding this currency and make those politicians richer and richer? And because the only way that the government can control us, there are two things: currency and weapons. Unless we can take out at least one of them, we have no voice. No voice. Russia just printed 1 trillion ruble to buy back stocks. What does that mean? This shit is fucking crazy. Are we not seeing this shit in real life? When they cannot pay their debt, they print. The only reason why we don't have a fucking recession during the pandemic is because they printed money to buy back shit. Because the interest rate is at like fucking near zero. There's so much money in the system, so people think, oh, you know what, it's fine, there's still money. Oh, you know what, it's fine, you can borrow money for cheap. That's the only fucking reason why there are millions of unemployed people during the pandemic, but there's no recession. It's because they've been fucking printing money and inflating everything. And if this war happened now, come on, man. Bro, fuck cash. What you're holding right now is not valuable. Not valuable at all. It's a piece of paper, means absolute jack shit. Only hold cash for what you need to eat, what you need to pay for rent, travel, and stuff like that, right? But your saving, never hold cash. Never. I hold zero fucking cash. My savings, zero. I don't hold cash at all. None.